This warning, this article from The Verge should ring warning bells in the heads of every techie and every computer engineer that is currently working in the tech field. Basically, any worker in the tech field should this article should ring warning bells inside their heads. I'm serious. We are having a generation of tech disabled and tech illiterate people, and they're already here. How are you doing? This is JK from the Ministry of Otaku, 14-year anime convention veteran. But where I'm this year, how are you doing? This is JK from the Ministry of Otaku, 14-year anime convention attendee / veteran. But this episode, I want to do something different. I just discovered this at 4chan's technology board, and it's about our coming generation that are technology illiterate and disabled due to their dependence on iPhones, iPads, and Chromebooks. The article says file not found, and I had to search for this article based on this image here, which is an excerpt from this article from The Verge. And the excerpt reads, Kathleen Garland, an astrophysicist, started seeing the problem in 2017. She was teaching an engineering course. Her students were using simulation software to model turbines for jet engines. She laid out the assignment clearly, but student after student will call her over for help. They were all getting the same error message. The program couldn't find their files. Garland thought it would be an easy fix. She asked each student where they saved their project. Could they be on a desktop, or perhaps in a shared drive? But over and over she met with confusion. What are you talking about? Multiple students inquired. Not only did they not know where the files were saved, they didn't understand the question. Gradually, Garland came to the same realization that many of her fellow educators have reached in the past 4 years. The concept of folders, files, and directories, essential to previous generation's understanding of computers, is gibberish to many modern students. Basically, they see it as a foreign language. I've been using computers for, 20 years, 25 years. And this generation, Generation Z, is going to be just as bad as boomers when it comes to technology. Basically, instead of using actual computers, for over a decade, they've gotten used to iPhones, Android phones. Actually, mostly iPhones because it just works. For me, I couldn't afford an iPhone. I've been used to using Android phones, such as this, primarily because of the fact that they are based on Linux. And even if you cannot find the files, at least there is a way to access the file structure internally through the phone, or by connecting the phone to your computer. Because all Android phones are basically Linux phones. Linux phones with a Google created structure file. But the people we are raising to use computers, they're not using regular computers. Or if they are, they're saving their files to the cloud, which is something that you should never trust. And you should keep offline versions of those files periodically, like every month or every 3 months. But I'm going to continue with this article read. Professionals have varied recollections of when they first saw the disconnect, but it estimates even the most tentative ones are surprisingly similar. It's been an issue for 4 years, starting for many educations around the fall of 2017. What was fall 2017? Was it the rise of our dependence of iPhones? Can't be iPhones. That can't be iPhones. Or probably because of the rise in use of cloud technology. I think I've been using cloud technology in 2010 with Dropbox, but I think most people regularly use cloud technology around fall 2017. That's approximately when Lincoln Colin, a lecturer in the psychology department of the University of Sussex, told class for research students to pull out a file out of a specific directory and was met with blank stares. And when you got people with blank stares, that's when you know that they're NPCs. They can't think for themselves. They don't want to think for themselves. They just do what they're programmed to. It was the same semester that Nicholas Garbin Saptastia, an applied physicist and lecturer at Columbia's Universidad E.A. Fit, noticed that students in his classes were having trouble finding their documents. It's the same year that posts began to pop up on STEM educator forums asking for help explaining the concept of a file. Garbin Sapta is an organizer. He has an intricate hierarchy of the photos on his computer, and he sorts the photos on his smartphone by category. He was in college in the very early 2000s. He grew up needing to keep papers organized. Now he thinks of his hard drives as filing cabinets. Open a drawer, and inside that drawer I have another cabinet with more drawers. He told The Verge, that's its structure. At the very end, I have a folder or a piece of paper I can access. Honestly, I hope he actually backups his folders or his hard drives, cause data loss is happens more and happens when you least expect it. Seriously, I hope he has a routine backup routine, or it could be a data hoarder. He just hoards data and basically has multiple hard drives and multiple backups. Now, Garbin Sapta's mental model is commonly known as a directory structure, the hierarchical system of folders that modern computer operating systems use to arrange files. It is the idea of a modern computer doesn't just save a file in an infinite expanse. It saves in the download folder, the desktop folder, or the documents folder, all of which live within this PC. Like the PCs that I use for Microsoft Windows 7 and Windows 10. In each of these, each of which might have their folders nested within them too. It's the idea that likely initiative to any computer user who remembers the floppy disk. More broadly, directory structure connotes the physical placement. The idea that a file stored on a computer is located somewhere on that computer. It's in discrete location. That's a concept that always felt odd to Garland, but seems completely alien to his students. I tend to think that IM lives in a particular folder. It lives in one place, and I have to go to that folder to find it, Garland says. They see it as one bucket, and everything's in that bucket. For my Android phones, they have their own folders as well. They can access, but I think they're talking about people who have iPhones, modern iPhones. I think they don't have that structure. That tracks with how Joshua Drossman, a senior at prison, has understood computer systems for as long as he can remember. The most interesting thing will be the laundry basket, where you have everything kind of together, and you're just pointing out what you need at any given time, he says, and trying to describe his mental model. As an operation research and financial engineering major, Drossman knows how to program. He's been trained to navigate directories and folders throughout his undergraduate years, and he understands their importance in his field, but it's not entirely natural, and he sometimes slips. About halfway through a recent 9-month research project, he had built so many files that he gave up on keeping them all structured. I try to be organized, but there's a certain point where there's so many files that it kind of becomes a hot mess. Many of his items ended up in one massive folder. That's me. I used to have my folders organized periodically. Nowadays, I just let them in one big folder until every 3 to 6 months, where I organize them with various file types: documents, photos, and videos, PDF files, pictures and images. In some cases, I throw them in a separate area. So I'm just as disorganized as him. Peter Plakan, Associate Director of Affairs International at George Mason University, has seen similar behavior from his students and can't quite wrap his head around it. Students had these computers in my lab. They have 1,000 files on their desktop computer, completely unorganized, he told The Verge, somewhat incredulously. I'm kind of obsessive organizer, but they have no problem having 1,000 files in the same directory. And I think this is fundamentally because of the shift in how we access files. Or the fact that people don't use regular computers anymore. They have tablets. They have iPhones. They don't have the same basic file structure as Linux or Windows. And they're not trained how to use a regular computer anymore. They don't naturally train how to use it through natural experience or through teaching. Their minds are wired for new computing that is based on the cloud and on whole bucket directories. Aubrey Vogler of journalism major at Texas A&M has had serious experiences with Drossman. She's encountered directory structure before. She shared a computer with her grandfather, who showed her how to save items and folders as a child. But as she's grown up, she's moved away from that system. She now keeps one master directory for schoolwork and one for a job. Documents she's not sure about go to a third floor called Sort. As much as I want them to be organized and try to be organized, it's just a big hot mess, Fuller says her files. She adds, my family always gives me a hard time when they see my computer screen. It has 50,000 icons. Well, here's the thing. How about you copy all your 50,000 icons, right click, cut, create a folder saying sort or another sort, and place that sort folder into that desktop. Why has my models changed? Drossman, for his part, has no idea. Oh, there is. People use iPhones and tablets and cloud-based computers instead of using normal computers. Why has my models changed? For his part, he has no idea. I don't think it's all about I don't think I even thought about it at all when I started using computers. It's possible that this analogy, multiple professors pointing to file encounters, is no longer useful since many students at Drossman's age spent their high school years storing documents in the likes of OneDrive and Dropbox. Yes, OneDrive and Dropbox, rather than physical spaces. It could be that other software they're accustomed to, dominant software apps like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube, all for putting content from a vast online sea rather than located in a hierarchy. When I want to go over the Snapchat trail, they're not in any particular order, but I know exactly where they are, says Roger, who is a typical iPhone user. Some of it boils down to muscle memory. That is the real reason why. That's the real reason why they don't do it. That's the real reason why they don't know how to save files anymore. They save them through a centralized location. Instead of saving your files locally onto a cell phone or to your computer, we now send and save files to a centralized locations in the cloud. It started with Facebook, where instead of saving photos to their computer, they save their photos to Facebook and have them in albums. We also started saving pictures to Twitter, to Snapchat. We also save videos to YouTube. And finally, with Instagram and TikTok. We don't save photos anymore for local use and just occasionally send them. Instead of saving them to their phones or computers, we send them straight up to TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. In many cases, we started saving our photos to the cloud. This depends on the cloud. Does have some benefits. Just in case your computer fries, at least you got a backup in Dropbox. But what if you don't save your files on the computer and Dropbox? You just save them on the cloud or at a third-party website. What if your account gets shut down for any bullshit terms of service clause that you don't read? Your photos in there are gone forever. And that's the real reason why you don't trust the cloud. That you'll always have an off-site backup for all the photos you send on social media, on the cloud, on Dropbox or whatever. I'll continue. But it may be also in that age where every considered useful interface includes a search function. Young people have never needed photos or directories for the tasks they do. The first internet search engines were used around 1990, but features like Windows Search and Spotlight for Mac OS are both parts of the early 2000s. Most of 2017's college freshmen were born in the very late 90s. I was born in the very late 80s. And I've been still using this normal computers, regular computers, laptops, and the Android operating system for cell phones. Probably that's why I don't act like most of these students in 2017. They were in elementary school when the iPhone debuted. They were on the same age as Google. While many of the... But it may also be in the age where every considered user of interface includes a search function. Young people have never needed folders or directories for the tasks they do. The first internet search engines were used around 1990. But features such as Windows Search and Microsoft Spotlight on Mac OS are both parts of the early 2000s. Most of the 2017's college freshmen were born in the very late 90s. They were in elementary school where the iPhone debuted. They were around the same age as Google. While many of today's professionals grew up without such functions or on their phones and computers, today's students increasingly don't remember a world without them. I remember a world without cell phones. I remember a world where we have rotary phones. I remember a world where there were no such functions on phones and computers. I definitely remember a world where I still have the T-Mobile Sidekick. Yes, I actually used to own that type of phone. Primarily because of the onboard keyboard. But now with people who have touch, nowadays when you got computers that don't have on-phone keyboards, hardware keyboards that are attached to the phone. Nowadays, we're having a new generation with different computer skills. I wasn't into the late speak or the short type words. I barely use it. I try to type properly in my text messages unless I have to. I grew up when you had to have a file. You had to save it. You had to know where it saves. There was no such function. said Sally Ford, a professor of astrometry at the Borough of Manhattan Community College. But among her students, there's not a conception that there's a place where files live. They just search for it and bring it up. She said, they have a laundry basket full of laundry, and they have a robot who will fetch them every piece of clothing they want on demand. Some companies have actually played around with laundry client robots to layer with salt. And that's the thing. People don't know how to do things the old-fashioned way anymore. And I think we're going to be I think computer tech, I think people who still use Windows computers the way they did when Windows 95 was first debuted, Windows 97, Windows Millennium Edition, Windows 7. I think they're going to be the new COBOL programmers. Especially with the Great Resignation. If IT companies didn't have refused to hire syndrome, to a point, this new mindset may reflect a natural and expected technology progression. Patrick recalls having students disconnect with his own professors. When I was a student, I'm sure there's a professor that said, "Oh my God, I don't understand how this person doesn't know how to solder a chip on a motherboard," he says. This kind of generation issue has always been around, and if directory structures exist on every computer, as well as in environments such as Google Drive, today's iterations of Mac OS and Windows do an excellent job of hiding them. Such, for example, your Steam folders all live in a folder called Steam Apps. When's the last time you click on that? For me, I usually click on that, I usually check on it once every year. I know where it is. You can easily type out Steam Apps on the search function. Today's virtual world is largely a searchable one. People in mainline professions have little need to interact with nested hierarchies. But in STEM fields, directory structure remains crucially important. Astronomers, for example, may work with hundreds of thousands of files in the same format, which can be unwieldy to scale in a searchable system, Pajan says. And this is why organization is important. You need to know which folder your files go into. Searching for things through a search engine, and even your computer, may take a very long time. But if you know where it is, you can search for it. You can search for it through memory or through virtual memory. The primary issue is that code researchers run at the command line needs to be told exactly how to access the files it's working with. It can't search for the files on its own. Some programming languages have search functions, but they're difficult to implement and not commonly used. It's the programming lessons where STEM professors across fields are encountering problems. Classes in the high school of computer science, that is, programming, are on the rise globally, but that hasn't translated to better preparation for college coursework in every case. And it makes a lot of sense because most college coursework, about 20 or sometimes 50% of them, are not for actual life skills. They're for BS subjects, or subjects that have nothing to do with the major. Some of them are necessary, like in liberal arts, but some courses that you don't need for the major. Of course, there is a need for people to know about American history, world history, Western history, basic math skills. But for the rest, they need to know, they need to have courses that they need directly for us. They need directly for the field, for the job. Now I'll repeat this segment again. Classes in the high school of computer science, that is, programming, are on the rise globally, but that hasn't translated to better preparation for college coursework in every case. Gloria and Sapta was taught computer basics in high school. how to save, how to use file files, how to navigate the terminal, which is not as many of his current students are coming in without. The high school students Garland works with largely haven't encountered directory structure unless they're taking upper-level STEM courses. Fortune recalls saving to file folders in a first-grade computer class, but says she was never directly taught what folders were. Those sorts of lessons have taken a back seat, and a growing emphasis on 21st century skills in the educational space. And you know what 21st century skills that need to be done? That they need to be taught? Basic life skills. Like how to balance a check, how to balance a bank account, how to drive, how to know certain things, such as using a regular computer outside of cloud computing. High school students and college students don't have basic life skills. They're being thrown into the world with no life skills whatsoever. So basically, we're screwed if nothing is being done. Now let's continue this article. A study could blame generation incompetence. In an international 2018 study that measured 8th grade capacities to use information and computer technologies productively, proclaimed that just 2% of Generation Z has achieved the highest digital native tier of computer literacy. Our students are in deep trouble, one educator wrote. And nothing's being done. Basically, this country is screwed. Meanwhile, we have people in China and Russia that actually are highly skilled in computers. We are fucked if nothing's being done. But the issue is likely not that modern students are learning fewer digital skills, but rather they're learning different ones. Garber and Sufta, for its knowledge of directly structure, doesn't understand Instagram nearly as its students do. Despite having had an account for a year, he had students try to explain the app in detail, but I still can't figure it out. Yeah, honestly, if I was a teacher, I would hold him back. I'll hold him back. They use a computer one way, and we use a computer another way. Joshua and stuff like emphasizes. That's where the problem is starting. 4 agrees. These are smart kids, she says. They're doing astrophysics. They get stuff. But they are not getting this. Regardless of source, the consequence is clear. STEM educators are increasingly taking on dual roles. Those of instructors not only in the field of expertise, but in computer fundamentals as well. Computer fundamentals is a life skill. And it needs to be taught to every high schooler at this point. That goes along with actual sexual education and financial education. And bring back driver's education and bring back civics education. Because we are having a generation of illiterate in education, socially illiterate, politically illiterate, and tech illiterate people that are turning into the new political activists instead of actually being normal humans. They use a computer one way and we use a computer another way. John Sabotage emphasizes. That's where the problem is starting. 4 degrees. These are smart kids. They're doing astrophysics. They get stuff. But then they will not gain this. Teaching computer fundamentals. And if they fail, they need to do it again. Regardless of source, the consequence is clear. STEM educators are increasingly taking on dual roles. Those are instructors not only in their field of expertise, but in computer fundamentals as well. Obvious solution is to hire people who know basic computer fundamentals. I mean, any of these universities I'm open to being hired as a teacher in computer fundamentals. I have 25 years experience using computers in a normal way, even when everything switched over to cloud computers. Hire me. hire me. Instead of having STEM educationers, having STEM teachers teaching computer fundamentals, I can help your students teach computer fundamentals. I can help your students learn computer fundamentals while STEM educators focus on the real heavy stuff. Calling courses now include a full 2-hour lecture to explain directory structure. He likens finding files to giving driving directions. He shows maps of directory trees and asks his students to pretend they're guiding others to a highlighted point. He uses every analogy he can think of. That's a start, but I think every STEM student needs to know computer fundamentals, the basics of computing, before they start a STEM course. We have an assurance of legitimate STEM students and STEM employees, but that's a different video. And basically this red text basically says the thing: take away their phones and get them on Windows 98. That's what I would tell them straight up. That's what I would tell these professors and these universities and colleges straight up. Take their phones away and get them on Windows 98. Parachan now spends a lot of time teaching his students about directory structure in his courses, along with other basics like file extensions and terminal navigation. Goran Self begins his semester with a student tutorial. I saw a little talk about a mental model of a computer, what the computer is. We have memory, we have hard drive, we have an interface, we have a file structure. It's a difficult concept to get across, though. Directory structure isn't just intuitive to students. It's so intuitive to professors that they have difficulty figuring out how to explain it. Those of us who've been around for a while, read decades, know what a file is, but it's very lost to explain it. Landed one educational in 2019 forum post, a sentiment that respondents shared. For part, a call for useful analogies on Twitter, and was met with various suggestions. Physical tree branches and leaves, kitchen utensils sorted into drawers, books and shelves in a library. Or one radical solution, which I actually agree on, that will actually work. Take their phones away and get them on Windows 98. Or in better, put them on Windows 95. That's the best solution. Windows 98 or Windows 95. And I had to spend an entire course teaching computer fundamentals using that OS system. But even after persuading students with every metaphor in the books, Cohen still isn't positive that his students get what he's talking about. It feels like I'm having some success, but yeah, sometimes it's hard to tell, he says. Clive Chan agrees that there are limits to how much he can bridge the generation divide. Despite his efforts to tailor his teaching, some of the tools we use rely on some knowledge that our students just aren't getting. Because universities are not teaching students actual life skills. And students need to be taught life skills in high school and also in college. This needs to be done immediately. But most universities don't want to, since every university has devolved into a business instead of an educational institution now. Others, meanwhile, believe it's professionals who need to adjust their thinking. Working with fellow students has convinced Garland that the laundry basket may be a superior model. She's gone to see the limitations of directory structure in her personal life. She uses her computer search function to find her schedules and documents when she lost them in a stack of directories. I'm like, huh? I don't even use these subfolders, she says. No. Oh, God. Even professionals have incorporated directory structure into their courses such that they may be claiming to approach that is soon to be obsolete. Unless you do something about it and preserve that old way of thinking into the new technology. Parajan has considered offering a separate course on directory structure, but he's not sure it's worth it. I imagine what's going to happen to our generation of students. They're going to grow up and become professors, and they're going to write their own tools, and they're going to be based on completely the approach that one we use today. His advice to fellow educators: get ready. This is not going to go away. You're not going to go back to the way things were. You have to accept it. The sooner that you accept things change, the better. No. I think universities and college professors and teachers need to get people learning about computer fundamentals. It needs to start now. As someone who's been using computers for 25 years, it needs to start. We are having a generation of computer illiterate people who don't know how to save files, who don't know how to locate save files, who don't know how to do basic troubleshooting. They will blame everything as a electronic pathogen. And we have people who use computers and cell phones as toys instead of tools. And we have a growing STEM student population that don't know how to use their actual computers anymore. This needs to stop. Universities, colleges, computer colleges need to hire people who know regular computing. People who use Windows 95 or 98 when they started computing. They need to start now hiring these people to teach computer fundamentals to these people. Even if we're going to this new way of life, at least we can teach people how to organize their files. We can teach people how to organize their files, organize their folders, so they will know which area where they save their files or programs. Because the students we're having right now, especially while affected during the Great Hysteria and the Great School Closures, these are our new professors, new astrologers, new technology workers, new engineers, new mechanics. And they're going to go out in the world being technology illiterate. Sooner or later, people who know basic computing will be the new COBOL engineers and programmers being paid top dollar. But with the way the labor market is going, that's not going to happen anytime soon. We're facing a generation of computer illiterate people, and it's getting worse. If universities do nothing about this, which they won't, our country is screwed. Even Russians and Chinese are more tech savvy than our new generation. This is JK from the Ministry of Otaku speaking out. If you got any comments, leave them below. Like, subscribe, share, subscribe. Yeah, like, share, subscribe, ring the doorbell notifications. Do whatever you can to keep this channel growing. And I'll see you in the next episode. Try to take care of yourselves, will you? And also learn basic computing. I mean, Google computer fundamentals. Google has courses. You can actually learn computer fundamentals. I mean, at least spend at least an hour refreshing yourselves how to use a computer.